Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Custis, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Rise to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Custis, and today we're going to have some fun and explore something you may have never heard of. I know I hadn't heard of it until I met this amazing woman on a retreat, and we were lucky enough to stay in the same Airbnb, and we had so much fun, just hit it off right away, and I was fascinated. So I know you are going to be too. My friend and guest, Maleah Gordon, she is so amazing. She loves people. She is completely passionate about sharing this message of holistic healing. And this is what I love. She's the founder of It's Anew, correct, Maleah? I just want to make sure. Okay. The founder of Anew, a foot zone school dedicated to helping people embrace the woo and the wise. I love that. And through her training programs, courses, and speeches, she has been able to instruct and inspire thousands to a happier, more fulfilled way of living. And as a foot zone trainer, she finds joy in teaching others aligned and effective tools that can transform their lives and the lives of those that they help. And that is another cool thing as well that we're going to be talking about. She believes that we can turn our pain into purpose and that healed people heal people. And ladies, you know that that is totally my jam. So welcome, my friend. So happy to have you here, Maleah.
Thank you. I'm so excited. What an intro, Noelle. Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk more about embracing different, life is kind of like a roller coaster. And I feel like at different points in life, there's different characteristics and attributes and passions. So I'm really excited to talk about those kinds of things and what it can look like in a healing sense.
Oh, so good. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. And I really would just love for you to tell us a little bit about your journey and who is Maleah and how did you discover your passion for foot zoning? We'll definitely talk about what foot zoning is, but I'd love to just know a little background about you.
Yeah, this could be like a 3-hour episode. No, I'm just kidding. I'll make it short. I was introduced to foot zoning I was like 15 or 16. 15-year-old girl who was really depressed and traumatized and struggling. It's like, those rags to riches type of stories of like the lowest to the low to like climbing out of it. It really was that dramatic for me. I didn't feel like I could be on this earth anymore most days. And my parents had tried everything. They'd tried the medication and therapy and like all like the religious leaders, all the things that they knew to do and that people had told them to do, and nothing was really working. So I had a foot zone from my cousin, like long story short, how that happened, but I had a foot zone from my cousin who was going to school at the time. And by the end of the zone, it was such a dramatic experience for me of feeling, first of all, validated and seen in the things she was finding on my feet through, like, my body was telling her on my feet. And I was like, okay, first of all, you were some woo-woo witch. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but okay, whatever. But I felt so validated and seen that was really impactful. But just the effect of the healing that the foot zone had on me, by the end of the zone, I felt a hope to be alive. I felt clarity. I felt more direction in my purpose. And just from that one session, I was like, wow, there's something to this weird foot thing. And I've just loved it ever since. And then it kind of has just evolved into, me becoming a foot zone practitioner over 11 years ago, working on people. I love to teach. I love to share, to creating my own school. I've been teaching for 6 years now. And yeah, it's my passion. I absolutely love it. If I could pick one thing in the world to do for quote unquote work, it would be this. So I feel really, really blessed and grateful to be able to do it.
Yeah, I have to tell you, the first time I met you, you came at it with such excitement and so much passion. That was what really stood out to me with you, that I was like, okay, tell me what this foot zoning is all about. So that is what we definitely want to do next. And we will dive into just so much of what you just talked about, because I think it is so, so important. And it really perked my ears up for sure. And then as the weekend went on, I was like, wow, there is
Mhm.
something about this that definitely is special. And we'll talk about all of those things too. But for those that are probably not familiar with it, I know, like I said, I wasn't familiar. I knew, like, pressure points on your feet and things like that. But for
Yep.
people who aren't super familiar with this, what exactly is foot zoning? And, how is it different than other types of holistic healing?
Oh, such a good question. So, foot zoning, my short little intro to it, it's basically a way to heal the body. And when I'm talking about the bodies, I'm talking about 5 bodies. We can get into that. But
Hmm.
it's a way to heal the body through the feet. So, we're accessing these meridian pathways. They come out our hands, they come out our feet, and we're accessing those pathways in an energy modality to help identify what's going on in the body, but not just identify, but to heal it from a root level.
Mm,
And it's similar to other, if you think about acupressure, acupuncture,
mhm,
reflexology, they're all cousin modalities. They're all working with the same energetic meridians of the body. My biggest, I'm looking for my feet, they're over in my basket, but my biggest explanation of how reflexology and foot zoning differ, and for people on the video, this will make sense because you can kind of see the visual. But in reflexology, we might take the big toe, pretend that this is my foot, right? We might take the big toe and say, okay, this is the head or this is the brain. Let's work on that. But in foot zoning, what we're doing is we are actually doing these specific techniques where we're like, let's do a walking drill, and then let's do a stationary drill, and then let's do a figure eight. And we're like, we have the brain stem, we have the pituitary, the pineal gland, the hypothalamus, the amygdala. Like, we're getting so specific that I feel like foot zoning is probably a little bit more in depth. It doesn't mean it's better or worse. It's just more in
mhm,
depth with the different signals, and it's really, really pinpointing specific areas of the body.
mhm,
And again, when I say body, I mean the 5 bodies, right?
mhm. Well, and that's what I love, because I know that in our conversations, and I would love to hear more about this, is I know that in our conversations we talked about that foot zoning can literally be something that you can use holistically to address physical issues of the body,
Mhm.
but it can also be emotional and spiritual. There can be those aspects too. So can you speak to how it helps in those areas?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing that I always say is everything is spiritual and energetic. Like, we think we live in this physical realm, and we do, but underneath all of it, especially depending on our beliefs, a lot of people believe in some type of a creator, right?
Mhm,
Everything is energetic, everything is spiritual. So when it comes to our body and being able to identify the roots and to understand what's going on in the body, I always say this. When people go to the doctor and they have ulcers in their stomach, and then the doctor says, okay, we've ruled out all of these things, I know what's causing the ulcers: stress. Your
mhm,
stress levels are causing ulcers. Or maybe a woman, this has been something that I'm familiar with in my life past, but maybe you have a hormonal imbalance, and they're like, well, physically nothing's causing that. It's probably your cortisol levels, it's probably the stress, right? So
mhm,
people can really easily believe and hop on the train of, oh, stress can cause physical problems in the body. But it's the exact same for every single emotion. And it
mhm,
doesn't mean, this is my big shoot, like, I want to shout it from the rooftop. It doesn't mean that feeling those things will cause those problems. It's when we are not navigating them, when we are storing them in our bodies, when we're
right.
stuffing them down, that's when those physical problems can start to come about. And honestly, there are emotions that kind of energetically or symbolically will go to certain places. So we have anger and resentment that typically goes to the liver. We have a lot of fear that can go to the kidneys or the knee. There's that I want to take a step forward, but something's holding me back, usually ourself. That goes in the
Right.
hip of like our decision making and taking steps forward, right? These are all kind of symbolic areas.
Yeah.
But it is very, very common that the physical imbalances that we are experiencing have an emotional or mental, they're kind of tied together, a
Mhm.
mental or emotional root. And that's what I specialize in my own foot zone practice, but as well in my school as well, is
Right.
we go to the mental and emotional roots of it all. Because let's say I have a hormonal imbalance. Great,
Right.
awesome. I'm taking some maca, I'm taking all of the herbs, I'm taking some lion's mane reishi. I go like natural side first. So of course I'm
Yeah.
gonna name those off, right? But
Love
let's
it.
say I'm taking those things and maybe it gets better for a second and then it just goes right back. Or maybe it's not getting better. It's probably a mental or emotional root that's causing or contributing to that physical imbalance.
Mhm.
So it's so, so important that when you're working with a holistic practitioner, that they understand that there's more than just the physical body to treat, that
Mhm.
we can build relationships, that we can identify what's going on with all 5 bodies, with all of the bodies.
Right, right. That is so good. And I just feel like, that is when I'm thinking about the work that you're doing. First of all, I was like, wow, this is so specific.
Mm,
And that's what I appreciated too, is I thought, it's so specific, but I wasn't as familiar with it. And that's what I love is that you are out here talking about it. You are shouting it from the rooftops and you want this to be something that people are able to understand and get their hands on and be able to even do it themselves,
mm,
and be able to practice on themselves. For someone who is like super curious about this and going, oh my gosh, this sounds like something that I would maybe want to do. How does someone go about that? I mean,
mm.
how do you go about doing the foot zoning? How do you optimize it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And yes, going back to what you're saying of one of the biggest reasons that I want this to be more mainstream for people is because I can't tell you how many times a week I use this with my own family, where
Mm,
my daughter, she has been struggling so bad with anxiety lately. And for me to be able to get on her feet and for her to know, hey, mom, I need a foot zone, and to have that safe space to be able to work on those things and to clear them out and to have these tools. Like every inner circle needs to have these kinds of tools. And whether it's foot zoning or not, foot zoning is my favorite modality because it
right.
literally changed and saved my life. And because
Mhm,
it is so effective at healing those 5 bodies, like so
mhm.
effective that's why I'm like, I've dedicated everything to sharing this modality. But it's because I see how I use it pretty
Yeah,
much daily in my home and in my life, but then my students and the people that are learning and the people that are sharing it, I'm seeing what it's doing for them too. So if
yeah.
someone wants to get a foot zone, um, honestly, it depends where you're at. It's really, really common in Idaho, Utah, even a little bit in Arizona,
Okay,
Montana. When you branch out of those states, because that's kind of where that's where it came over from Europe, was in Montana.
okay.
When you get outside of those states, it might be a little bit harder to find. So honestly, you can just reach out to me and say, hey, like I live here, hook me up, and I'll see if I have a practitioner or know somebody that zones there.
Yeah,
There might be Facebook pages of like foot zone practitioners, and you could kind of look up things there. Sometimes they're active, sometimes they're not. But I feel like being able to have these tools in our own tool belt
mm,
is like you can't put a price on it. So I have lots of different ways I teach people, and of course, like you vibe with who you want to vibe with and learn from who you want to learn with. But if you believe that focusing on the mental and emotional roots are important, then I can promise you that I will support you in that. That is again what I specialize in the foot zone. most foot zone instructors and teachers may not teach from that angle, and that's not right or wrong, good or bad. I'm just saying
Right.
if you want to focus on those mental emotional roots, because that's what changed and saved my life,
Yeah.
that's where I really dive deep into it, as well as the anatomy and
Yeah.
the physical body, absolutely, but there's more, right?
Yeah.
So there's lots of different ways. There's like the beginner's level of just like a nice little toolkit to get like dip your feet in. There's a full family foot zone learning opportunity, and then there's like a certification of, I'm obsessed with this. I want to do this for like money or for a career. I want to do this to be able to help people at a bigger scale. So it's all over.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit because, like, I know for me, I think when we really, like, when I really connected to this, of course, when we have similar experiences, remember bringing up my daughter to you right away
Mhm.
because number one, she struggled with massive migraines at a young age and it scared the heck out of me. I
Yeah.
had no idea what was going on, and I'll never forget the first time it happened. And I mean, she was screaming, she was holding her head, she was
Oh,
in elementary school. It was absolutely terrifying. And I literally did not know what to do. I did not know what to do
yeah.
other than I remember just in my own mind, I never suffered from migraines. And I remember my mom did. And I just remember my mom, when I was little, she would like want to be in a dark room. And so I just turned out all the lights and I was like, lay down, and I'm like trying to calm her down. And I immediately sat there with her. And it just so happened that I was at the foot of the bed for her. And I just started
Yeah.
rubbing her feet. And I
Oh,
just started like rubbing them. And I'm, trying to calm her down. I think I was, just trying to be super calm because on the inside as a mom, I was absolutely
panicking.
panicked.
Yeah.
And it completely got her to calm down and fall asleep, and that girl slept for hours. And
Mm.
since then we have realized that being at her feet is the first thing she needs somebody to do, somebody to like
Wow.
do something with those feet. And we didn't know the science behind it. We didn't know anything. We were
Yeah.
just like, it was like instinct, I think. And so when you started talking about this, that's what clicked for me. And I remember when I later on learned about oils, I went
Mm.
into mom mode and I was like, I have to learn everything I can about these oils because I was then combining that with, the pressure points and things like that for her migraines. And we were able to start managing them better.
I love
And that was one thing I was like, I love that this is something that you are so passionate about because, like you said, there are not practitioners all over the place. Like you don't have this easy access to
yeah.
foot zoning. And it's so, I mean, it just feels like it's something that, like you said, it's a modality that can literally be life changing. It
Mm.
clearly was life changing for you.
Mm.
And that experience that you had back as a teenager changed your life. And that to me speaks volumes. But then I'm also thinking, as a parent,
Yeah.
what a beautiful thing
Yeah.
to know because you know there all the modalities that we can do. I'm kind of more of a natural girl now as well.
Mhm.
I want to reach into those natural ways of being able to help my children, let alone help myself.
Yes.
So I think that's where I'd love to talk more about that and the importance of that, because I just do think that there are so many tools out there that we don't know.
Yeah.
And just having that exposure, that's why I was so excited for you to come on, because I'm like, there's so much to talk about in this. And I want our audience to understand that, like, this is another tool that you can
Mhm.
absolutely learn, that you can absolutely, even begin a practice. I mean, there's so many things, right? I mean, it's so
Yeah.
I could go on
Yeah.
and on too. But that's why I was fascinated, because I was able to make that personal connection. And
Mm.
then you even had talked about the depression side of it. And I know that, and my daughter's okay with me saying that out loud now, but depression and anxiety has been something that she has struggled with in her life.
Mhm.
And at age 22, we're still investigating and learning, and she's still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us, just tell us all of the things, whatever you want to open up about, and just of all of the, I know I just unpacked a whole bunch of stuff, but I would love for you to just really, if you want to dive a little deeper into letting people know what you feel like is the importance of this and
Mm.
how it can be like truly a game changer in your life.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, thank you for that question. And I'm sorry that your daughter's struggled with that. It's definitely been something that's been an up and down in my life for sure. So if I know that we've like chatted and like kind of got connected too. So if she wants to chat at all of things that I found to be beneficial, it doesn't mean healing's not a one size fits all at all. But I would love
Yeah,
to send over some signals and maybe some different supplements and things that I found to be
absolutely.
beneficial. But this is like, I firmly believe that the body has this innate powerful ability to heal itself. I feel like
Mm,
that we were created with this ability for our body to heal itself. Like we see this very clearly when we break a bone, a bunch of red blood cells, white blood cells go to the area to make sure there's no infection, and then the bone starts to remodel and form, and there's more healthy, blood flow, and all of this scientific anatomical
yes.
things start to happen to create healing in the body.
Mhm.
When we get a cut, it's the same. So we have these
Right.
systems built inside of us to
Mhm.
heal. But the thing is we live in this world where outside things can influence that ability for our body to heal. There could be traumatic experiences. That
Mhm.
was a big part of my experience. Um, there can be outside toxins and chemicals. There can be just life. There can be genetic factors. There's so many things that can hinder the body to then heal itself. And that's why foot zoning can work on a variety of different things within those 5 bodies, is because what we're doing is we're going into the feet. We're finding those things that are stuck, those emotions, those physical imbalances, those energetic blocks, maybe mindsets that we have. We're finding those and we're working on those. I know I've said this before, but at a root level. So
Mhm.
then the most like basic way and non-fancy way to say what foot zoning does is we're just going into the foot, we're identifying what's stuck in the body, we're getting those things unstuck, and then the
Mhm.
body can heal itself. But that's really the
Right.
foundation of what it is and why it works so effectively. And honestly, I feel like having this is something I've been talking a lot about lately right now. I just feel like having a trauma informed approach is essential as
Mm,
practitioners. So
yes.
in everything I teach, in the toolkit, the very dip your toes in, the
Mhm.
family foot zone, the certification, everything is done through a trauma informed lens, because it's so everyone has experienced different types of trauma in their life. And
Mhm.
when we're working with the body, we maybe have heard this buzzword going around of somatic healing, and soma means body,
Mm,
which is amazing. I'm so grateful that somatic healing is becoming more, people are becoming more aware of it. But the
right.
foot zone is a very powerful form of somatic healing because we're using the body to heal the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and that auric, or the aura body, the energy body.
Oh my gosh, so good. It is. It just, I don't know what it is about it. It just touches me because I do feel like since I started to learn about this, and then of course I'm, you know, following you on social media, and I'm always like just these little tidbits. I'm like, man, this is so good. And that's why I was so excited to have you on here because we only got a certain amount of time together. So I was like, oh, I just want to
Yeah.
like talk more about it. I saw you do a foot zoning, just a, fairly brief one on someone that was in the house with us. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then you guys, like, this was what was so crazy is I was telling her there was a part of my body that was bothering me. And I remember I was like, yeah, I just have this area, in the back of my heel and it's just
Yeah.
bugging me. And I'm explaining this to her. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, oh, is there a way to just kind of cure that up through, foot zoning?
Totally,
And
totally.
she kind of laughed and she was like, well, I can tell you what the root cause of that is. And little did she know, like, she literally had no idea that I was having some gut issues. And she specifically called out what the gut issue that I was having was. And it relates exactly to that fart. Oh God. Well, there you go. Um, we won't even edit that part out because,
Good.
we're just talking about all the things today.
Perfect.
But it was one of those things that I was like, it was specifically that part of the body
Yeah.
that related to that gut issue. I was blown away because I was like, you had no idea. I have
Mm,
just met you. And so that again was another thing that got me fascinated, in which led us to something kind of funny. And this is a misconception and just kind of an idea that I think people freak out about is feet in general.
yeah.
Like, people wig out about feet, but
Yeah.
like, I love what you said about it on how you look at it, and I'd love for you to share with us
Yes.
that, because I do think people automatically go to, oh gosh, there's no way I'm working on feet,
Mm.
until you said this.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I remember back to when you were like showing me the spot on your foot. And I remember saying, like, can I be honest with you first? I was
Yes,
like, can
yes,
I like tell me what level you want? Do you want level 1 or do you want level 10? Because I can just
right.
go right into it. So it's just amazing what our bodies are trying to tell us, what our feet can
Yes.
tell us. And so people sometimes, like, I remember my first foot zoning experience. I literally was like, you witch lady, like, how do you know these things? And it's just because it comes down to our bodies are so connected. Those 5
Mhm.
bodies, they are so connected. And I said it earlier, it was the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and auric body.
Yeah.
They are intertwined. One is one is one is one is one. They are all together creating this human experience that we're having. And if we will listen and if we will pay attention, we will be given guidance and direction in
Mhm.
our health and in our healing. But yeah, I remember the first day I showed up to foot zone class and I sat there and the instructor showed a picture of a foot with some squiggles on it. And I was like, oh bleep. It hit me. I was like, I'm gonna have to work on feet. Like, I'm gonna have to touch feet. I did not even think about it because I
Right.
don't like, if my husband ever asks for a foot rub, nope, not gonna do it. If my daughter's like, just rub my foot, it hurts right here. I'm like, kids' feet are a little cuter. So I'm like, okay. But
Right.
like, I'm not gonna give anyone a foot rub. But when I look at the foot, this, you guys, I actually have signals just sitting on my desk right here. Okay. So when I am looking at a foot, I am seeing the I'll just go back to the brain. I'm seeing the brain stem. I'm seeing the hypothalamus. I'm seeing the pituitary, the pineal.
Mhm.
I'm seeing the corpus callosum. I'm seeing the lungs, the shoulder. Like, I'm visualizing these anatomical parts that we are working on at
Yeah.
a, deep level of all of the, of the hip. We have a greater trochanter, lesser trochanter. Like, I see it as such a I'm just visualizing the human body, the parts
Yeah.
that I'm working on. And I love anatomy. I love the human body. So it's just exciting to be able to express that and to say, oh, okay, this is where we're working, like this part of the heart or the shoulder or the lungs, whatever it is.
Right.
But it doesn't become a big toe anymore. It's a
Yeah.
brain.
It's a
It's
brain.
a head.
I love that. I love it. You're like, "Oh, I don't see this as a big toe. I see it as a brain." And I was
Yeah,
like, "Okay, when you put it into perspective that way and you see that foot as your human body basically and
totally.
just the different parts," I was fascinated. I was like, "Of course that makes sense."
Yeah,
Because then it becomes something so much deeper and so much more meaningful than like some gross foot, because you're like,
totally.
I can heal through this part of you and I can
Yep.
heal all of these things, which again, fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And that's where I would definitely love for you to share with us, even like, what is your vision for the future of foot zoning? Like, what do you hope for that happens with this
Yeah.
practice?
Oh, such a beautiful question. Um, I would love a foot zone. I'm gonna. I didn't know I was gonna cry. Okay,
Oh.
I would love to see a foot zone practitioner in every community. I would
Mm,
love to see that. And not even just a foot zone practitioner in every community, but when I say having the foot zone in every circle, where you're at a family of, like, I cannot tell you how many times I've used this. A family reunion, we're at a family event. My brothers are being dumb teenage boys. They're jumping over fire while doing fireworks, right? They
mhm,
collide, they go unconscious. We don't know
mm,
what's going on with them, but I know to get on their foot. I know to work on the trauma points. We call them vagus nerve signals of when the
mhm.
body goes into this fight, flight, freeze mode. I know where to
Yeah.
go to work on the brain and to work on these trauma and these emergency signals, and they come to. I can't tell you how many times, like, I have example after example after example of my own life, but also not just me, like the people who are learning this and using this. But I would love to see a practitioner in every community. I would love to see foot zone tools, maybe not necessarily a practitioner, but foot zone tools with the
Yeah.
emergency toolkit of knowing those emergency signals, of knowing the head for migraines, the lungs for all of the crap that's going around, right? Like, if
Mhm.
we had these tools at our fingertips, how,
I know.
like, what would it look like for people to feel that self-reliant in their healthcare and in their homes? And especially for moms, I have such a soft spot for moms to
Mhm.
know, like you said, when something happens to your kid. My kid just cracked his skull. He had a fracture on his cranium after being at his grandparents for a couple days.
Mhm.
Um, I knew how to get on his foot and to help his body heal from that concussion when he wasn't healing. He wasn't sleeping. He was throwing up. Nothing, it wasn't getting better.
Yeah.
And I knew where to work. I knew how to go onto his body for him to be able to find that rest, to find that sleep, to restore that, imbalance that happens in concussions. And
Yeah.
I cannot tell you the kind of empowerment that it brings to people to
Mhm.
have that thought process when something happens. Like, I have a tool that can help this, whether it's a panic attack, whether it's a broken bone, a fractured skull,
Right.
people jumping over fires, like, all of it.
Yeah. No, and I remember watching that all happen, like watching that play out
Mm,
through following you because that happened shortly after we had
yeah,
met in our
yeah,
retreat. And I just remember it was like such, I mean, it was such, as a parent, it's so hard when your children are going
yeah,
through something like that. And I remember it was so hard for you, but yet at the same time, you felt this peace of knowing you were like, I know what to do. I can
mhm,
work on him. And you were starting to notice that there was relief in some of his
yeah,
symptoms and things like that. And I just thought, again, how empowering because little did I know, like even with my own daughter with having those
mm,
migraines, I would have loved to have known that this tool of foot zoning to be able to know those emergency spots. Where are some
mhm,
things, where are some places that I can
mhm.
help her? Because even just helping her a little bit
Yep,
felt so reassuring as a parent because we don't know what to do in some of these instances. And there are emergency situations. And
totally.
when it comes to mental health, I also am so passionate about different modalities that we can be
Yeah,
using that can help. And I love that this covers all five parts because
mm,
I just think that that is what is so powerful. It's not just one part, it's not just a couple, it's all
yeah,
of them because they are all connected. And I think that's what really intrigues me. And I keep telling my daughter, I'm telling you, I know I've said this to you so many times. I'm like, my daughter needs to do this.
I
My daughter
know.
needs to be the person in our community that like gets
Yeah.
this. And if she doesn't, then I guess I'm just going to be jumping in. But she's just so into all of this. And I always say, you guys are so much alike. And when I met you, you just, your spirit and your spunk and
Aw,
your passion, like it really shines through. And this is why I felt so great about having you here because I was like, people need to know you. People need to know
Mhm.
your heart and know what it is that you're doing. And people need to know what foot zoning is. And I'm so excited for you to be able to share. I know you touched on that you can do some different things, but I think that your school, you're going to be launching a new session here shortly. Tell us all of the things about if someone is like, man, this really resonates with me. And maybe it is just,
Dipping your toes in.
yes, maybe it's just one level, but I mean, tell us about how we can get involved with this and really,
Yeah.
do all of the things.
Yeah, thank you. So this is when somebody is like, this is kind of the person I'm talking to for this thing. If somebody's working at a 9 to 5, that they're just like, wah wah, this is soul sucking. I am not a fan. I don't want to do this anymore. Um, and a healing modality can be an incredible option, as well as moms who are in the thick of it and they're like, I'm either working and I want to be at home, or I'm at home and I need to like do something with that as well, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think that being able, how many people can go to a schooling program for 6 months and come out on the other side starting depending on where you put your prices, but starting at $60 to $80 an hour.
Mhm.
Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
The financial freedom and the time freedom that this gives people, along
Mhm.
with, of course, like the foot zone modality is where my heart is. Like the results it gives people, but then being able to do it for people on that flip side, like
Yeah.
that part has also changed my life. And so I love being able to teach that to people. So
Mhm.
to be able to learn and practice for other people in a professional level, which is basically just charging for your services. It looks like a 6 month long program. And it's a hybrid program. Most of it's all done online. At the
Mhm.
end of the program, we do have a big graduation retreat where we come together. There's sound healing and breath work, and we're doing foot
Mm.
zoning. And it's like, so I'm having it this weekend, and I'm so
Ah,
excited. Like, our
yay.
6 months with this cohort is coming to a close. So we're doing it this weekend, and I am just like on a high looking forward to it.
Oh, I love it.
Um, but yeah, it's just a process of a 6 month long certification. We meet weekly. There's an online student portal. It's a 6-in-1 certification. So it's focused on foot zoning, but we also go into holistic coaching. So, like, a whole body. What are all these pieces? What are we going to put together, right? We do crystal healing, trauma informed care, meditation. So there's a lot of other things that go along with it.
Mhm.
And we're starting in October. So I'm really, really excited. Our next cohort will go from October to March. I believe that's the
Okay.
6 months.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to do something that you love. And maybe you don't love touching feet. I don't, but I love helping people. I love
Yeah.
helping people heal at a deep level. So those are the kind of people who join this movement and join this program. And then there are those other levels. So the dipping your toes in, that toolkit, you guys, it's a very, very, very complete beginner guide. It's just 17 bucks. Like, it has a lot of signals. It
Yeah.
has
It's
emotional
incredible.
training. Like, it's usually $199, but I'm just like sending it out there of like, if we want foot zoning in every circle, like, I'm going to be the one to do it. Like, just have
Love
it.
it.
Just take it, right? And then there's the family foot zone course, which is like in between, where you want to learn a lot of it, but you
Mhm.
don't want to do it like, you don't want to do it as a service to be paid for it. It's just like, I
Yeah.
know I just want it for my home. And then it kind of goes into clinics where it's like your health clinic, your gut clinic, your energy clinic.
Mm.
And so there's
Love that.
specific, your energy, your mental and emotional. And it gives specific treatments for each of those types of things.
I love that. What a beautiful investment too. I mean, it's just having littles is that's just like I just keep going back to that. Just going,
Yep.
man, I wish I
Yeah.
had this when they were little. But I'm going, you know what? It's great for all of us. It really is. And
Yeah.
I love that idea of the fact that you have been so thoughtful of thinking about all of the different ways, because that is how we're going to spread this. That is how people are going to learn and be able to do this. And goodness knows, if we could have more wellness in our world, how amazing that would be. So I think this is just a beautiful modality. I love it. I'm so grateful for you. And I knew this was going to be, I always know, I'm like, if we get together, we could probably talk about this forever. But that's why I want people to get to know you. I want people to connect with you. We'll have it all in the show notes, but let us know, what is the best way to connect with you to get more information?
Yeah, honestly, Instagram. I know
Okay.
that's the typical
Yep.
Instagram, so easy. So it's just at Maleah, and it'll be in the show notes how to spell my
Yes.
name and everything, but Maleah_Gordon. Message me if you're like, hey, I need a signal for this. Like someone has kidney stones, like send me the kidney. I'll just screenshot a picture and send it to you. Like the foot
Oh,
zone signals are very in depth, so it's hard if I send you a map to know exactly what to do, but like I'll
right.
voice memo you through it. And then also there's the links for the toolkit, which again, it's just like I know this sounds so like like just prideful in a way, but like the toolkit's a no-brainer, honestly. Like
It is a no-brainer.
it
It
has
really is a
so
no-brainer.
much information and like already beautiful signals of not just the physical things, but the emotional things with them. And
Mhm.
it's like the price of going out to a nice lunch, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's amazing. That's amazing. I just think that everybody listening needs to grab at least that. Like, I'm just going to put it out there for you.
If you
So,
wanna learn, it's a really beautiful start place. If foot zoning's
absolutely.
not your thing, totally respect that as well.
Yes, yes. No, and that's what I love about you. And I am so, so grateful that we got to do this together. I am excited for you. I'm excited for all of the things that you're doing. And I just think you are seriously such a light in our world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the amazing conversation and teaching me even more about it today, because I feel like I'm even enlightened even more and more motivated than ever. So super
Mm.
excited. And again, we'll have everything in the show notes so you can get in touch with Maleah. And excited for all of you that are going to
Yeah.
probably be reaching out and wanting to know more, because I think it is a beautiful thing. So until next time, you guys, keep rising, keep shining, and know that the best is yet to come. Bye, friends.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.